UFC 301 is in the books, guys. The MMA Casual has a lot to talk about today. Steve Erceg took a loss last night against Alexandre Pantoja in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for the flyweight belt. Of course, Anthony Smith with a huge win and an upsetting one if you ask me. And my parlays, Jose Aldo's back, looks better than ever. John Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. And then, of course, we got to talk about the Paulo Costa curse and the upcoming fight between Dustin Poirier and Islam Makhachev. Before we get to it, be sure to subscribe, guys. I'm the MMA Casual, 50,000 on Instagram and TikTok. Be sure to follow. Let's get right to it. The main event of the night, Steve Erceg versus Alexandre Pantoja. I agree with the decision. I thought it was a close fight, but I thought that Alexandre Pantoja did just enough to win that fight. If you ask me, it was 3-1 in rounds going into round number 5 for Pantoja. And then, of course, we saw how round 5 played out. I thought Steve Erceg lost that fight 4-1. And one of the judges agreed with that. The other two had it 3-2, which is very possible. I said it's either 3-1 Pantoja or 2-2. A lot of people had it 2-2. Some people even had Steve Erceg up in the fight 3-1, which I found a little weird. And then when I go online, when I see everything after, everyone's talking about Steve Erceg getting robbed. He was robbed of the win. This, that, the other. I go online. I follow other creators. I like to see their opinions. I like to see what they're saying. I respect the Weasel a lot. Very knowledgeable. He says Erceg should have won that fight when we're looking at damage. MMA Guru agreed Erceg won that fight. And, you know, it made me think about all this judging criteria, something that's there's a lot of gray area, and something for me that has always just made sense in mixed martial arts and UFC and just experience watching the fights, because I use what I've seen before to help me gauge how a fight is going now. And like it or not, takedowns matter, control time matters, and that's the biggest thing I want to say about this fight. Someone could argue that Steve Erceg had the better of the exchanges. I would say so. You could say Steve Erceg landed the more damaging shots, the more damaging blows. Well, you have to think there's rounds for a reason, so there's no continuum, right? Just your progress and how you did in one round does not score another round. But you have to think that in a round, you could be the guy who gets the better of the exchanges, but if you're on your back for 1.5 to 2 minutes or get taken down 2 to 3 times, that's heavy weight for the judges. And I think that's something that gets lost in translation when we're watching the fight, because when you're rooting for someone and you see them land a real nice combination or cut someone up, get someone bleeding, bruise someone up, maybe even drop them, which obviously has its own weight in the sport, we kind of just forget about what else is going on in the fight. And I think that's a huge error on MMA fans. Now, the judging criteria is what it is, and it speaks a lot about damage. But history shows it's not all about damage, because I could get knocked down in a round, but if I take down a fighter and hold them down for 4 minutes, not necessarily get close to a submission, but if I hold that man down for 4 minutes, clinch with him for 4 minutes, bring him down again and again, I probably win that round. And that's something that a lot of MMA fans are against. But that's something that is continuously proven when we're watching these judges, right? Because we saw 2 judges go 3-2 in the fight and one go 4-1. I thought it was 4-1. I mean, you can't seriously argue that Steve Erceg won round 5. It was close in the striking. Let's say Erceg had the edge, but the second the takedown was attempted, game over. Pantoja controlled the rest of the fight. What was it, 2 minutes on the ground? That's huge. And that's the last thing the judges are seeing. And that's all something that falls into play. These judges don't come together after and rewatch the fight, look at things from a different angle. No, this is all in real time. And that's why Dana White always says never leave it to the judges. And I don't think it's a bad thing to say. I think it's just it all depends on what the fight looks like. And if we're talking about Pantoja, I will say that Pantoja is a fighter that actually stresses me out, because the guy could go on for 7 rounds probably, but after round number 2, he looks like crap. Alexandre Pantoja, after round number 3, looks gassed. His arms are down. He's a little more shaken up. He reacts more to strikes. I mean, he's not an ideal fighter in those rounds because he looks exhausted. Chances are he's going to take you down. He did it to Rival. He did it to Moreno. He did it in this fight. He still performs, but he looks like crap. He looks exhausted, and that's something that does not look good to the judges. And that's just my opinion. I think the call was right. Was it a close fight? Absolutely. Going into round number 5, if you tell me it's 2-2, I could understand it. Did I have it that way? No, but I understand that call. But for you to go into that fifth round 2-2, see that round and still think Steve Erceg won? No, I think his inexperience got the best of him, and I think Pantoja earned that win. And I really can't understand why there's so much controversy right now. But that's just me. Let me know what you think below. Let's move on. Jose Aldo, the King of Brazil, comes out with his crown, comes out looking confident. I had him winning the fight as well. I only missed one out of all my picks last night, and it was Anthony Smith, but that's another conversation. But Jose Aldo, just absolutely fantastic. Jose Aldo did such a good job of mixing it up, being complete. And a lot of people disagreed with picking Jose Aldo for this fight, but I'm going to tell you why I did so. The last time we saw Jose Aldo fight was August 2022 against one of the biggest contenders in the bantamweight division, the contender, Merab Dvalishvili. He didn't get taken down. He looked fantastic. And the reason he loses that fight is just that Merab held him up against the cage for the majority of the fight. And he had the control. But in their exchanges, throughout everything, Jose Aldo looked as good as ever. So, on a whim, I said, you know what? I'm assuming Jose Aldo looks very similar to that fight. And Jonathan Martinez, yeah, in his prime, coming up, heck of a win streak. I don't think he has it in him. I did not think he had it in him. And Jose Aldo looked real crisp striking. He usually really heavy with the leg kicks. Wasn't so heavy, in my opinion, throughout this fight. But his combinations, I mean, just absolutely fantastic. He was working the body like I've never seen him work the body. Changing levels fantastically. I mean, Jose Aldo earns the win. And now there's talks about him getting a title shot. He says that his coaches think that just because he's Aldo, he deserves a title shot. I disagree. I think Merab Dvalishvili gets the next bantamweight title shot. I think Corey Sandhagen is in line after that one. And then if anything, if Aldo gets a win against another top contender, I think we could start talking about him getting another title shot. But throwing Aldo straight in there, coming out of retirement and just beating Jonathan Martinez, I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it makes any sense in that deep division. Next up, Anthony Lionheart Smith. Holy hell, that man ruined my parlay. About two of them. I was so sure for Petrino to win that fight. So sure. But an experience is a whole thing. And the fact that Anthony Lionheart Smith has over 50 professional fights says a lot. I think Petrino's 11-0. And I should have known better going into this fight, but it is what it is. And just when he started up that guillotine, the fact that Petrino picked him up and tried to slam him, he just solidified and made it easy for Anthony Smith. I almost feel like Anthony didn't win this fight, which he obviously did. I feel like Petrino just kind of shat the bed a little there at the end too. So it is what it is. So that's UFC 301. I thought it was very successful. I hate the fact there wasn't a press conference because it makes it harder to sell. I don't expect much from a flyweight championship main event. I'm sorry. History tends to repeat itself. It's never been a division that sells too much. You see why the last 4 championship fights have gone into decision. It's something we see that's very apparent. They're complete and full mixed martial artists, but at the end of the day, there's something about seeing a 125-pound man fight that isn't as entertaining as one of the heavyweights or the bigger guys. All right, so let's talk about John Jones ducking Tom Aspinall. All of a sudden, John Jones is talking about Alex Pereira a lot, and I think it's a cop-out. Alex Pereira has no business fighting John Jones at the heavyweight division. I don't think Alex Pereira has any reason to fight at the heavyweight division. I mean, you're a big dude. You have the power of a heavyweight. But let's be honest. I got to agree with Anthony Lionheart Smith here. Alex Pereira, I'm not going to call him a one-trick pony. I'm going to call him a two-trick pony, right? Because his leg kicks will absolutely disable you. And then, of course, that hook will put you to sleep. But we've had one individual, only one, really test Alex Pereira's mixed martial arts. And what I mean by that is his grappling, his takedown defense, his submission defense, things like that. And that was John Blachowicz. That was a tough fight. And if you ask me, the closest fight Alex Pereira's been in the UFC. Besides that first Israel Adesanya fight that he was going to lose. But why isn't anyone taking him down? Why are people trying to fight Alex Pereira? Well, moving forward, now John Jones has a crush on Alex Pereira and calls him out over Tom Aspinall, who currently has the interim belt. Well, I think the reason is because John Jones knows that the second they step into the octagon, it's going to be a very similar situation as John Jones versus Cyril Gane. John Jones is not going to stand in front of this guy who's putting people out in seconds. Some of the toughest guys, like 4 previous champions. John Jones doesn't want to risk that. John Jones is the greatest of all time. And I would like to think that he knows he's the best and he'll take on any challenge. But that's obviously not true because the real challenge comes with Tom Aspinall, a real heavyweight, someone who's proven to be dangerous, someone who's proven to be a full mixed martial artist. But John Jones doesn't want that. John Jones wants Alex Pereira. And that, to me, is somewhat of a cop-out because John Jones knows very well that he will find a way to take down Alex Pereira. I think he's a really big guy. Alex Pereira's also large, but if John Jones decides to wrestle, I mean, Alex Pereira is not going to be able to throw a punch. It's that simple. And that's my take. Let me know what you think below. O'Malley versus Merab in the Sphere. That came out today. A lot of people talking about it. Again, it's just rumored. O'Malley came out and said, hey, I've suggested it to the UFC, but it's not official. What do I think? I think it makes a lot of sense, but here's my issue. We don't have any Mexican champions other than Alexa Grasso. Does Alexa Grasso defend the belt as the main event in the Sphere for Mexican Independence Day? I don't think so. I think he could do better, right? And we know Yair's going to be on that card for sure. We know Raul Rosas Jr. is probably going to be on that card, but who headlines that card? Who can be a main event and Grasso be a main event, a co-main event too? It makes sense. And Merab, the Mexican people love him. He came out the last time he fought against Henry Cejudo. He had a flag out. I think O'Malley versus Merab in the Sphere is perfect. You put Grasso versus whoever is the co-main event. You throw Yair in the main card. You throw Raul in the early to start the main card. You got yourself one of the best cards of the year. That's simple. Let me know what you think. Last but not least, recently a stat came out. Paulo Costa's been on cards with champions defending their belt. I think it's 5 or 6 times. In every event where he fought and shared the main card with another champion, with a champion defending the belt, they've all lost the belt. Stipe and DC twice, and I forgot the other ones. I'm sorry, I'm unprepared. But now he's fighting on the card with Dustin Poirier and Islam Makhachev in a fight where, for me, that might be Dustin Poirier's toughest opponent to get to the belt. Yeah, I think so. Islam Makhachev's a bad dude, man. Dustin Poirier is also a bad dude. I don't like how how he tried that gilly so often. A lot of immaturity against Benoit Saint-Denis, but we know this is a different contender. I don't think Dustin Poirier tries that nonsense against Islam Makhachev. I think we see the best Dustin Poirier we've ever seen against Islam. So the fact that Costa's on that card, I like our chances. So be sure. Always jump the gilly. I'm the MMA Casual. Let me know how stupid you think I am below. Be sure to subscribe, guys. We just got monetized. I'm the MMA Casual. Have a good one.